Chapter 12. Eric Von Talo. Later that afternoon, Tantic asked if they would like to see their rooms. Alex and his friends followed the innkeeper to the back of the inn, where they entered a large suite of rooms. The main sitting room had several chairs, a few small tables, and a large fireplace. Two short hallways led from either side of the room into two smaller bedrooms with 2 beds each and a small table with a lamp. "I hope this will do," said Tantic as he showed them around the suite. "We seldom have one company take an entire apartment, but you seem to fit perfectly." "This will do nicely," replied Bregnest with a slight bow. "About your evening meal, then," Tantic began. "Will you want a private room, or would you prefer to eat in the common room? The common room will not be crowded tonight, as we have so few visitors these days." "A private room would be best," said Bregnest. "We have several things to discuss, and I would not want to trouble your other guests." "A kind gesture," replied Tantic. "You know we Tekkens are often shy of strangers, though I doubt they would be put off by your company. At least not once they know about your victory over the bandits." "You are most kind," answered Bregnest, bowing slightly once more. "Perhaps we will join your guests after our meal." "As you wish," said Tantic, returning the bow. The company ate their evening meal in a dining room well away from the common room of the inn. Tantic promised to bring them something special, and when the food arrived, everything looked and smelled wonderful. Alex was hungry, but he was too worried about when the old man might arrive and what he might have to say, and couldn't enjoy the food. "You worry too much for one so young," said Skeld jokingly. "You should learn to let things be and to take things as they come." "Ignore him," commented Tayo, sitting down next to Alex. "He never worries about anything, and so he never plans for anything." "I plan," replied Skeld with a laugh. "I plan to have as much fun as I can before I cross the wall." "The wall?" Alex questioned. "The wall between this life and the next," said Tayo, his face twisting slightly as though he felt a pain. "We should not speak of it." "It's there for all of us poor mortals," Skeld said, no longer laughing. "Worrying about it won't make it go away." "Neither will laughing at it," answered Tayo, and he fell silent. "I'm sorry I asked," Alex said in a lowered voice to Tayo. He knew Tayo seldom laughed, but he'd never seen him quite this way before. "I did not mean to trouble you." "It does not matter," replied Tayo, though his pained look remained. "Perhaps Skeld is right, and I do think too much on this thing." Alex didn't reply, leaving Tayo to his own thoughts. As they ate, Bregnest told the rest of the company about the old man who had approached Alex in the stable. He asked Alex to tell the story and repeat everything the old man had said. After Alex had finished, they were all silent for several minutes.
"Why does he want to come when no one is around?"
Thorang questioned. "Perhaps he does not wish to be seen speaking to us," suggested Archon. "And perhaps he's not a simple old man," Tayo added. "We won't know what he is or what he knows until he chooses to tell us. For now, we will wait," Bregnest said.
"Should we go to the common room for a drink?"
Halfton asked in a hopeful tone.
"It might make the old man more comfortable." "Perhaps," said Bregnest. "However, I think we should wait for our visitor in our rooms. I will ask Tantic to send us something to drink, so don't look so sad, Halfton." "The spiced ale is very good,"
said Halfton, smiling sheepishly. They finished their meal in silence. Alex poked at his food, having lost his appetite, worried that waiting in their rooms might be a mistake. What if the old man couldn't find them? Alex didn't want to look foolish in front of his friends if the old man didn't show up at all. As they left the dining room, Bregnest went to find Tantic, and Alex and the others moved slowly toward their rooms at the back of the inn. It wasn't long before Bregnest returned, followed by servants carrying several pitchers and mugs. Halfton grinned and claimed a mug of dark Tekken beer. As the servants departed, Bregness took a seat near the fireplace, his eyes fixed on the flames, a troubled look on his face. Alex sat in a chair across from Bregness, worried the old man wouldn't come. He almost jumped out of his chair when there was a soft knock at the door a short time later. Alex looked at the door, then at Bregness, unsure of what he should do. Bregness smiled slightly at Alex and motioned for Archon to open the door. Archon politely showed the old man into the room, offering him a chair near Bregness. The old man moved slowly, looking at each of the company in turn as he walked through the room. He seemed unsure of himself, as if he had been summoned here instead of it being his own idea to come. "All of you, then," said the old man, taking the seat Archon had indicated. "I suppose you know your own ways."
"But we do not know yours," replied
Bregness, his eyes never leaving the old man.
"Will you tell us why you wish to speak to us?"
"I'm sure you know," the old man answered, laughing slightly. "First, tell me your names, and if you will, a drop of ale would be most welcome."
"The ale first,"
said Bregness, motioning to Halfton.
"But perhaps you should give your name first, so we will know what to call you."
"Thank you kindly," said the old man, taking a mug from Halfton and drinking deeply. "I see you have some wisdom. I am called Eric von Talo."
"That is not a Tekken name," Bregness replied in a thoughtful tone. "I am Sylvan Bregness, leader of this company. If you wish, I will name my companions, but it seems a small matter."
"As you wish, Master Bregness," Eric replied, taking his mug in a toast.
"Will you tell us what business you have with us?"
Bregness questioned. "Oh, yes," Eric replied. "I have quite a tale to tell, and I think you will be happy to hear it, even if it does come from a poor old man like myself."
"Old I can see,"
said Bregness with a smile.
"Poor I cannot judge. I think, however, that you wish to be less poor before your tale is told."
"You have a keen eye," Eric answered, a sly grin on his face. "Perhaps some arrangement can be reached."
"I will not pay for goods before I see them," said Bregness in a stern tone. "However, I will make you this offer. If your tale rings true and has any value, I will pay you 5 gold coins. Sufficient payment, I think, for even the best of stories."
5 from each man who hears my story would be closer to the mark," countered Eric. "Though perhaps my story is of no value, and I should go about my own business."
"Free drink is payment enough for stories,"
snapped Halfton, rising from his seat.
"Halfton!"
said Bregness sharply. The dwarf sank back to his chair. "The dwarf has no patience," commented Eric, still smiling slyly.
"And mine will grow short," replied Bregness. "Tell your tale, old man. If there is value in it, we will pay 5 gold coins each for the hearing. If not, well, the free drink will be your payment."
"Very well," replied Eric. "Perhaps a touch more ale, then, to wet my throat in the telling." Halfton refilled Eric's cup, a look of anger and dislike on his face. "To begin with, you are correct. My name is not Tekken at all," Eric began. "My family is from Varlo, though none of my family now living has ever seen that fabled city. It was my father's father's father who last saw the great city, and it was in ruins then. It was my grandsire of many generations ago who last saw the city when it was fair." Eric paused, his eyes half closed in deep thought or memory. For several minutes the only sound was the soft crackling of the fire in the gate. And then Eric continued. "It was this ancient Von Talo who served in the great city as one of its most trusted guards. It is from him that my information comes, though my great-grandfather found that his story was true. I will not tell the whole story of the days before the dragon came to Varlo, as the tale is too long and has little to do with my own. I will say that my ancestor was living in the heart of the great castle when the evil arrived. Though he did not see the beast himself, my ancient father soon learned of the worm's arrival. He was deep inside the castle on the king's business, and his first thoughts were to find the king and fight the monster. But fortunately for myself, that was not to be. For as news of the disaster came, so did the survivors of Varlo. They were white with fear, and even the bravest of them were shaken and confused. It was from them that my ancestor learned of the king's death.
Once more the old man fell silent. Alex saw a look of anger cross his face, but it vanished as Eric sipped his ale.
With his master dead and so many terrified people looking to him for guidance and protection, he knew the course he had to take, Eric went on. He knew that escape from the castle into the city would be madness. The dragon would surely kill them all if they went through the main gates, so he took a different path.
And it is this path that you wish to tell us about? Bregness questioned.
40 pieces of gold seems a small price to pay for the path to the dragon's hoard, replied Eric.
You test my patience, said Bregness coldly. You ask for payment before the goods are seen.
Not at all, replied Eric. I simply wish a fair price for showing you the way to great wealth.
The way to wealth is a small matter when its protector is so great, answered Bregness. You may show us a path that leads to our doom, and that is of no value at all.
Perhaps doom is all there is, Eric said calmly. However, I will not ask for payment unless you find success.
Very well, then, said Bregness, his tone softening slightly. If your path leads us to success, we will each give you 50 times the price we pay for your story.
A small amount for such a hoard, complained Eric.
You may know the path, but we will have to face the evil at its end, replied Bregness. 50 times 5 from each of us is all I will promise.
Perhaps if you find success, you will feel more generous, Eric offered.
I have no doubt we will, Bregness agreed.
This other path, then, Eric continued. This other path that led my ancestor to safety was hidden far beneath the castle, where few had ever gone. It was only by chance my ancestor knew of it at all, but that is another story for another time. In the deepest part of the castle there was a great hall, and at the end of this hall was a spring. The spring was large, creating a fair-sized stream of water. A channel was cut for the water to flow in so the hall and the castle above would not be flooded. At the end of this channel, a tunnel emptied the water out of the mountain. The tunnel leads from the great hall to the meadows on the southern side of the city. There was at one time a stone path cut into one side of the tunnel so the ancient kings could go to the open fields beyond the city unseen.
If there was a spring beneath the castle, the dragon would have blocked it up years ago, interrupted Bregness. And failing that, he would have blocked the tunnel.
The men of Varlo once tried to block the spring and failed, said Eric. And if the dragon blocked the tunnel, the castle would even now be flooded. However, when my great-grandfather last saw the city, a little more than 100 years ago, the tunnel was not blocked.
Much can change in 100 years,
said Bregnest in a thoughtful voice.
Why did your ancestor return to Varlo?
He hoped to win the city back, answered Eric with a sad look on his face. He thought he could drive the dragon out and restore life to the land of his fathers.
A secret entrance once used is no longer a secret,
said Bregnest grimly. Perhaps not, but it is still better than the front gate, Eric answered. The opening to the tunnel is not as easy to access as it once was. That much I know. When my grandfather returned to Tekken, he told us what he'd seen. The dragon had piled great rocks over the tunnel's mouth, not to block the water, but to block anyone trying to enter. The water flows freely out from under the rocks, but if a man wanted to enter the tunnel, he would have to swim under the rocks against the current of the water.
A near impossible task,
said Bregnest, a stern look on his face.
What value is a path we cannot enter or use?
As you said, much can change in 100 years, Eric replied. Bregnest considered Eric's story for some time. Alex also thought about the story, concerned about his own ability to swim upstream against a swift current. Of course, they'd have to find the stream first before trying to swim up it, so perhaps there was no need to worry just yet.
Is the stream of water the only entrance to the tunnel?
Questioned Bregnest. I cannot say for sure, answered Eric, though this small map shows no other. Eric produced an old piece of paper from his pocket and held it up for Bregnest to see. The map showed the city of Varlo, the castle, and the fields around the city. The bottom of the map showed a stream that began south of the city, well away from the city walls.
This map shows nothing of the tunnel,
said Bregnest after looking carefully at the paper.
If it showed the tunnel or the inside of the castle, it might be of value.
I have no such map to offer, said Eric, though I dare say my story has been worth its promised price.
Perhaps, said Bregnest. But perhaps this story is of your own making. Have you any proof that what you've said is true?
Only my word, replied Eric in a defiant tone. I am old and have nothing of value but my word. I give you my word and a promise to repay the story's price if it should prove false.
And if we should return to claim payment,
commented Bregnest with a slight smile. For several minutes, Bregnest remained silent. Then he spoke again.
Your story is a good one and worth the price.
You are most kind, said Eric, bowing slightly. I will take my leave of your company then, as it is late. Bregnest nodded to the old man and handed him 5 gold coins, motioning for each in the company to do the same. Eric moved around the room, collecting his fee and bowing to each of the adventurers in turn.
Where will we find you if we return?
Asked Bregnest as Eric moved toward the door. Here at the inn, answered Eric. I oversee the stables for Tantic, though there is little to do these days.
And if we do not return for many years, who shall we pay in your place?
Bregnest questioned as Eric opened the door to leave. If it takes you that long, you may keep the payment, Eric replied with a smile. You still have far to go before ever reaching Varlo, and you may never get there. I will wait for your return as long as I can. Bregnest nodded as Eric left the room, closing the door behind him.
I don't trust him,
said Halfton after several minutes of silence.
How did he know we were going to Varlo at all?
He believed the story, commented Archon in a thoughtful tone. It may not be a true story, but he believes it.
True story or not, Bregnest is right. A secret entrance once used is no longer secret,
said Thrang, sounding as angry as Halfton.
Though the old man was right to say it's better than the front gate.
Not better if it leads us straight to the dragon's den, said Tayo. Better to surprise the dragon in his den than to have him surprise us someplace else, said Skeld with a smile. And do our youngest members have nothing to say on this matter? Bregnest asked. Youth should speak when spoken to, replied Andy with a bow. That may do in your father's house, said Bregnest with a slight smile. You and Alex are part of this company, and may speak or remain silent as you see fit. I have little to say, said Andy, though if there is a secret way, it would be worth a look. But if it's blocked, we may waste time looking, said Alex, following Andy's lead. And if the dragon knows about it, won't he watch it closely? All have made good points, said Bregnest, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. We have a long road before reaching Varlo. We will have time to consider Eric's story and what course we should take as we travel, though I am of the opinion that we should at least look for this secret path. How far is it to Varlo? Alex asked. A good distance, Bregnest answered. If we take the straightest road, we must still ride to the Brown Hills, and then pass the ruins of Ankh.
And then there's the dark forest. We must pass that no matter which road we take,
Thrang added.
The dark forest should not be difficult to cross if we take the right paths, Archon commented. And meet the right people, said Bregnest, looking up at Archon. But nothing is sure, except that tomorrow we must ride on. We will discuss this again when we are closer to Varlo. To Varlo, said Halfton, raising his mug. To Varlo indeed, Bregnest replied without toasting.